Beneath the brooding bulk of the mountain, an ancient dwarvish city delves ever deeper along the sides of a dark chasm. But at its base, where the chasm breaks the wall of a gigantic geode, the crystal lining of the geode reflects 1,000 shades and glimmers with a light that the surface dwellers will never see. Far above, where the city meets the surface through a long tunnel, can be found the exchange where bustling dwarven merchants and hopeful outsiders mingle, and everyone who delves beneath the mountain from the sunlit world outside tries to catch a glimpse of the mythical Crystal City far below. Hello adventurers and welcome back to the Red Quills. My name is Ryan and today we're going to be continuing on the trend we've done in recent weeks where I create a handful of maps that you can use to expand an adventure. Now for the last couple of episodes, what I've done is I've created very short adventures that use 3 maps. One that is a grid map that can be used for very basic combat and exploration, one of which is a wilderness map, which gives you a concept of where the encounters take place, and one is an isometric town map so that you can use to explore or roleplay. But this time we're going to do something slightly different. I've had a couple of questions in comments and on the Discord server about how I can create a larger map that has clues built in. The grid map can be used for exploration. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove the isometric map itself and instead refer to a map I made earlier this year, the map of the vertical city of Glaston or Heimglah. I'm going to use the lore that I made for that map, in which there's a gigantic geode that is lined with magic crystals, and use that as the basis for a campaign. So I'm going to start off by creating the grid map itself. As I've done in previous videos, I'm going to use a mixture of acrylic paint pens and fineliners. The acrylic paint gives us a very visible, highly saturated color outline that really draws the eye and allows the player to see the difference between the interior and the exterior. And then I'm going to go through the fineliners and add the details in a similar way to how I did the sewer map for the grid map series. But this time it's going to be more colorful and stand out a little bit more. In addition to that, I'm going to do a quick wilderness map as well so you can see the context of the gate of Glaston. But otherwise, you can also refer to the map of Glaston and Heimglah itself. Now, Heimglah is a highly secretive isolationist city that is built to protect the magical crystals that grow on the inside of the geode. Now, I was a bit vague about the powers of these crystals when I first made the map, but now for the purposes of this adventure, I've really fleshed it out a little bit more. The crystals can be used to heal, and they also give a light. And though there are several items that contain the crystals that have left the mine over the years, they are exceedingly rare. So your players have been given a quest to head in and find one of these crystals. And what's more, they can find clues that there has been a crystal that's left the city recently. It didn't leave all the way though, and can be found in the abandoned tunnels that branch off from the main goods exchange. So rather than delving down to the heavily fortified and extremely defensive city down below, they can sidle off into the abandoned corridors that lead horizontally into the mountain, and in the darkness there can find one crystal that they can bring out without upsetting too much the dwarven guards on the great lifts. And so to that end, what I've created is a map, a grid map, which allows them to explore different chambers, and in which every chamber presents a different kind of challenge. And we've talked about creating different chambers and what kind of challenges they can contain in other videos, specifically in the Mega Dungeon videos that I've gone into, where you can encounter traps or environmental dangers, combat, encounters, or even just ambience or dead-end rooms. And in this case, I'm going to add on a few more details as well about how you can bring in mobile problems, the patrols of dwarven guards, or even how the main antagonist can move through the tunnels as a reaction to what your players do. And the result of this is that I create an encounter that will probably take a couple of sessions for your players to solve. And that's absolutely fine by me. So in this case, what I tried to do was balance the functionality of an old building with being fun and difficult to explore at the same time. Because what they're exploring is, according to the world's law, the old goods exchange. So it was where the merchants originally came through and traded all of their various goods. Now that's been removed because of the addition of the lifts and the lift system. But because of that, when creating it, I paid a lot of attention to how it would actually function if it weren't abandoned. And the outcome was this: a really large public building in which there are lots of different doorways and lots of different methods of moving from one place to another. And so in order to create a dungeon that felt explorable and could react to the players as they moved through, depending on how loud they were or what methods they took to overcome the various problems, I've created different reactionary elements within the rooms as well as those mobile concepts. And what I'm going to do as I go through when I do the fine lining details is I'm going to give clues on the floor map about what the players can encounter. So they've got an idea when they enter a room of what kind of problems that they can encounter. And overall, I haven't really focused a lot on storytelling or the lore of this particular setting because that wasn't really my intention. In previous adventures, there was a lot of roleplay. In this adventure, there's a lot of exploration and quite a lot of combat. But the storytelling is a little bit shallower than the others, and that's absolutely fine if that's the kind of adventure you want to run. There's no requirement for each adventure to be extremely deep in the lore. And in this case, the lore is about as deep as saying that these are magic lanterns that everyone wants and the dwarves want to protect. That is all you need to know. So the main point of interest in this particular map is, of course, the bad guy. One of the dwarven guards was sent into the abandoned goods exchange to find this crystal himself several years before. And unfortunately, he was ambushed, much like the players will be, by another few of the denizens that live there, the beasts that make their homes in the old tunnels. And he was gravely injured, but he used the healing properties of the crystal to nurse himself back to health. The side effect of which is, however, that the crystals are mildly hypnotic. And over time, as he was nursed back to health using the magic of the crystal, his mind became warped by the crystal, so that he didn't even begin to question why he remained in the tunnels. So as with previous adventures, what I'm going to do, as well as giving you ideas about how to create these kinds of encounters, is I'm going to release an adventure that pairs with these maps so that you can use them and you can provide yourself a context in making your own adventures. In the adventure module, I've gone through with a systematic list of all of the various chambers and what kinds of encounter you can have in them, as well as how they react to the players if they make specific decisions, so that you can use the same kind of outline in your own adventures. So you can find the link to that particular download in the description below. Every week when I come out with a new video, I'll also come out with a paired adventure module so that you can refer to it in creating your own adventures. So you can check that in the description below, as well as a list of the materials that I've used to create these maps if you particularly like the look of them. As always, if you have any questions, you can chuck them in the comments below. Every like and comment is really appreciated and allows us to reach more people. So if you did enjoy, please do like it. And of course, if you want to discuss further, if you want to talk about your own projects, you can always check out the Red Quill's Discord server in which we share map making and world building projects together. As always, thank you to my Patreon supporters. It's amazing to have such support. And as a thank you to them, I'm going through this series and I'm adding in additions to the Atlas as we go through. So in addition to the adventure module, they also have access to a description of Heimglah itself, as well as the goods exchange dungeon. So for bonus lore, if you want to support me, thank you for that. But if you do want to wait, it'll all be available in a couple of months' time for free when I do the next big drop of the versions of the Atlas. So if you want to check all of that out, the links are in the description below. As always, thank you to my supporters. I will catch you next week for our next topic. We'll be discussing how you can create one big villain and lots of minions and how you can outline your dungeons according to that principle as well. So until then, Good luck on your adventures, and I'll see you next week.